Hey friends, it's Pastor Ray, and I can't wait to unleash God's word to you this morning. And one of the reasons this, I had a friend recently, and he was describing a flight he had, and he said he was coming in on a plane, landing at an airport, and all of a sudden the pilot came out and said, "It's going to be a while. It's too crowded, and we're going to have to circle the airport." This ever happened to you? And they circled for an hour and a half, and it said, there's actually a word, this happened to me before, it's probably happened to you, and it's very irritating when it happens. It's called a holding pattern. And he just went, I'm in a holding pattern. And I started thinking, COVID has done that to a lot of people. People have put their whole life in a holding pattern. In other words, I've stopped dreaming. I'm in a holding pattern. I've stopped trusting God. I'm in a holding pattern. I've stopped serving. I'm in a holding pattern. I'm hiding out instead of engaged. I'm in a holding pattern. And I know exactly what that feels like. And my devotional this morning, which I couldn't wait to unleash here, was this. I started thinking there are two things that compete, and one of them is going to dominate my life and direct my future. And here it is. It's either fear or faith. One of those two things is going to dominate. And I started thinking, I know a lot of people these days, without even thinking about it, they are falling over on the fear side. Okay? And for example, they're going, just in every conversation, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my business. I'm afraid my child is going to end up hanging out with the wrong crowd. In other words, I'm afraid of all this kind of stuff. And then I started thinking about it a little bit deeper level, and I started thinking, what I believe about that stuff, if it's on the fear side, is going to drag me into a prison of fear. And which means I end up not living a life of faith. And then I started thinking about a deeper level, because I was thinking, fear and faith, this was brand new thought for me. Fear and faith have something in common. And here it is. Both fear and faith actually ask us to believe that something is going to happen in the future. In other words, fear is asking you to believe bad things are going to happen in the future. Faith is asking you to believe that God is going to work in your future. God is going to help your future. God is going to be with you in your future. God is going to direct your future. And so I started going, verses on this, okay? And for example, John chapter 14, Jesus says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me," this faith, "the works I'm doing, they will do even greater things because I'm going to the Father." Okay? In other words, dare to believe that things can be different no matter what things are like right now. Okay? John 14:14, "Ask anything in my name and I will do it." God is still answering and responding to prayer. Okay? Dare to believe that things can be different no matter what things are like right now. Matthew 17:20. "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you." These are verses that fear erases out of our Bible. Okay, Mark 10. "With man, this is impossible, but all things are possible with God." And I started thinking about this from this level. In other words, somehow the Bible believes that impossible things can happen, and I'm going to live on the fear side, or I'm going to live on the faith side. And I just wanted to lay this out to you, okay? Because my full disclosure, my natural inclination on all this stuff is to wake up in the morning and assume the worst is going to happen, okay? And I want to take you back to a study I did one time on when David faced Goliath. The real contrast was not, the story of David and Goliath is not David and Goliath. The story of David and Goliath is David and the entire army of Israel. Because what's going on here is this. The entire army of Israel, every time Goliath walks out, the army of Israel is shaking in their tents, imprisoned by fear. There's only one guy willing to face him, and it's David, okay? And which means this, the contrast is not David, a little guy, and Goliath, a big guy. The contrast is this, one man with faith, one boy with faith, and an entire army of people paralyzed, hiding in their tents with fear. And I started thinking, what's the difference? The difference is what you focus on and what you expect. And David is focused on God and expecting God to show up and work. David is focused on God, expecting God to show up and work. All the people paralyzed by fear, their focus is only on their problems, and so they expect only defeat. People, there it is. The key to faith, the key to life is right there, okay? Today, all day long, you and I, an internal battle is going to be going. I am going to be focused only on problems, so I'll expect and experience only defeat. Or the call of God is to focus on God and expect God to show up and work. And when you shift from focusing on problems to focusing on God and expecting only defeat to expecting God to show up and work, all of a sudden the prison door of fear flies open and you can walk out and have the future God dreamed for you. I believe this, God has some amazing things in store. I think the next 6 to 9 months of Christian ministry might be some of the greatest revival we have ever seen if Christians get their eyes on God, focus on God, and expect God to work. It's going to be a brand new day. Glad you tuned in today. Hope this helps. Fear and faith have something in common. They both believe something's going to happen. Get on the faith side.